The bullet that grazed Amanda Thornton's shoulder in the dusty streets of Santa Fe was not meant for her, but it changed everything about where she needed to go and how fast she needed to get there. Blood seeped through her dress as she pressed her hand against the wound, stumbling into the general store while chaos erupted outside. Two rival gangs had decided to settle their dispute in broad daylight, and she had been caught in the crossfire while carrying her late aunt's belongings to the stagecoach depot. The package she had been holding scattered across the wooden planks, and she scrambled to gather the letters and jewelry while bullets whizzed overhead. "Get down," a woman shouted, pulling Amanda behind the counter. The shopkeeper's wife pressed a cloth to her shoulder. "That needs proper tending, but we cannot move until this settles." Amanda nodded, her breath coming in short gasps. She was 22 years old and had already buried both parents and now her aunt. The inheritance her aunt left was modest, but enough to start fresh somewhere new, somewhere far from the memories that haunted every corner of New Mexico territory. She had planned to travel to California, to the coast where her cousin ran a boarding house and promised her work and a new beginning. But the stagecoach route she needed had been canceled indefinitely due to Apaches threatening the main road, forcing travelers to take a treacherous detour through Copper Canyon, a passage so dangerous that most drivers refused to attempt it. The gunfire finally ceased after what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. Amanda stood on shaky legs, gathering her belongings once more. The shopkeeper's wife had bandaged her shoulder properly, but the wound throbbed with each movement. "You need to see a doctor," the woman insisted. "I need to leave this town," Amanda replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "I was supposed to be on that stagecoach, but now I need to find another way west, through Copper Canyon. You will die trying. No coach will take that route." Amanda's jaw tightened. "Then I will find someone who knows the way. I cannot stay here." She left the store with her bag clutched in her good arm, determination overriding the pain. The streets had cleared, leaving only dust and the metallic scent of gunpowder. 3 men lay dead in the street, and the undertaker was already measuring them for coffins. This violence, this constant death, it was exactly what she was fleeing from. The livery stable sat at the edge of town, and she made her way there with purpose. An older man with a weathered face looked up from shoeing a horse. "I need someone who knows Copper Canyon," she said without preamble. "Someone who can guide me through to the western routes." The man laughed, not unkindly. "Miss, that is a death wish. The canyon is no place for a lady, especially not alone." "I am not asking to go alone. I am asking for a guide." He studied her blood-stained dress and the determination in her eyes. "There is one man who knows that canyon like the back of his hand. Jack Anderson. He has a ranch about 5 miles north of here. Runs cattle and horses. He used to scout for the army, knows every pass and trail in these territories. But he does not take kindly to strangers, and he surely will not want to babysit a woman through dangerous country." "Where exactly is his ranch?" "Follow the north road until you see a split oak tree. Take the left fork and keep going until you see his gates. But miss, he will likely turn you away." Amanda thanked him and used the last of her ready money to rent a horse. The saddle hurt her shoulder, but she gritted her teeth and rode out of Santa Fe as the afternoon sun beat down mercilessly. The landscape stretched endless and brown, dotted with scrub brush and the occasional twisted tree. Mountains rose in the distance, purple and imposing against the brilliant blue sky. She found the split oak tree and took the left fork as instructed. The path was well worn, and she could see cattle grazing in the distance. The ranch came into view as the sun began its descent toward the horizon. It was more substantial than she expected, with a sturdy house, a large barn, and several corrals containing horses that looked well cared for. Smoke rose from the chimney, and she could hear the sound of someone working metal in what must be a smithy. Amanda dismounted carefully, her shoulders screaming in protest. She tied the horse to a post and walked toward the house. Before she could knock, the door opened, and a man stepped out onto the porch. Jack Anderson was not what she expected. The livery owner's description had led her to imagine someone older, grizzled perhaps, but the man before her was probably in his late 20s, tall and broad-shouldered with dark hair and eyes that assessed her with immediate wariness. He wore simple work clothes and his hands showed the calluses of hard labor. "This is private property," he said, his voice deep and measured. "If you are lost, Santa Fe is back the way you came." "I am not lost. I am looking for Jack Anderson. You found him. What do you want?" Amanda straightened her spine despite the pain. "I need passage through Copper Canyon. I was told you are the only man who knows the route well enough to guide someone through safely." His eyes narrowed. "Who told you that?" "The man at the livery stable in Santa Fe." "Old Pete needs to learn to keep his mouth shut." Jack crossed his arms. "I do not guide people through that canyon. It is too dangerous, especially for someone in your condition." He gestured to her blood-stained dress. "It is just a graze. I will be fine." "A graze that has soaked through your bandages. You need a doctor, not a death march through the most treacherous territory in New Mexico." "I have already seen to it, and I am not asking for charity. I can pay." Jack shook his head. "No amount of money is worth guiding a stubborn woman to her death. The answer is no. Now get back on your horse and return to town before dark." Amanda felt her temper rise. She had come too far and endured too much to be dismissed so easily. "I am going through that canyon with or without your help. I would prefer to have someone who knows the way, but I will go alone if I must." "Then you are a fool." "Perhaps, but I am a determined fool with no other options." Jack studied her for a long moment, and she met his gaze without flinching. She could see him weighing something in his mind, could see the conflict in his eyes. "Why do you need to go through Copper Canyon specifically?" he finally asked. "The main stagecoach routes have been suspended." "I need to get to California, and that canyon is the only passage that will get me to the western routes without adding 3 weeks to my journey. I do not have 3 weeks' worth of funds or time." "What is in California?" "A fresh start. Family. A life that does not involve watching people die in the streets." Her voice cracked slightly on the last words, and she hated herself for the show of weakness. Jack sighed heavily. "Come inside. Let me at least look at that wound properly. Then we will talk." Amanda hesitated, aware of the impropriety of entering an unmarried man's home, but propriety seemed less important than survival at this point. She followed him into a surprisingly tidy house. The main room served as both kitchen and living area, with a large fireplace, a sturdy table, and several chairs. Books lined a shelf on one wall, and everything was clean and orderly. "Sit," Jack commanded, pointing to a chair near the fireplace. He brought a basin of water and clean cloths from a side room. "I learned field medicine in the Army. Let me see your shoulder." Amanda removed her shawl and allowed him to carefully peel back the makeshift bandage. His hands were gentle despite their size, and he worked with the confidence of someone who had tended many wounds. "You are lucky. It truly is just a graze, but it needs proper cleaning or it will fester." He worked in silence for several minutes, cleaning the wound with steady hands. "This will hurt." He poured something over the wound that burned like fire, and Amanda bit her lip to keep from crying out. Jack applied a salve that smelled of herbs and wrapped her shoulder with clean bandages. "That should hold for now. You need to rest and let it heal." "I need to keep moving," Amanda insisted. Jack returned to his seat across from her, his expression thoughtful. "Tell me why you are really running." "I am not running. I am starting over." "Same thing, usually." He leaned back in his chair. "I know something about wanting to escape the past." Amanda met his eyes, seeing something there she recognized. Pain, loss, the kind that never fully healed but taught you to keep moving forward anyway. "My parents died of fever 2 years ago," she said quietly. "My aunt took me in, but she passed last month. Heart gave out. I have a cousin in California who offered me a place to stay and work at her boarding house. Everything I have left is in that bag, and I have just enough money to get there if I am careful. But I cannot wait 3 more weeks. I cannot stay in Santa Fe another day, let alone weeks." "Why?" "What happened today, besides getting shot?" "Nothing. Everything. That town is full of memories I cannot bear and violence I want no part of. I need to leave, and the canyon is the only viable route." Jack was quiet for a long time, and Amanda waited, hardly daring to breathe. She could see him struggling with something, could see the moment he came to a decision. "I will take you through the canyon on 3 conditions," he finally said. "First, you follow my every instruction without question. That canyon will kill you if you make one wrong move. Second, we leave in 3 days, not before. That gives your shoulder time to start healing and gives me time to prepare. Third, you stay here for those 3 days. My nearest neighbor is miles away, and I cannot have you riding back and forth to Santa Fe in your condition." Amanda's heart leaped. "I accept your conditions. Thank you. Do not thank me yet. You might hate me before this is over. I am not a pleasant trail companion, and I will push you hard. The canyon does not forgive weakness. I am not weak. We will see." He stood and gestured to a door on the far wall. "That is my sister's old room. She married a soldier and moved to Texas 3 years ago. You can sleep there. I will make us some supper." Amanda rose carefully, testing her shoulder. "I can help with the cooking. You can rest. That is what you can do." She wanted to argue but recognized the futility. Instead, she took her bag to the small bedroom and found it simply furnished with a bed, a dresser, and a washstand. A colorful quilt covered the bed, and lace curtains hung in the window. It was the kind of room that spoke of a woman's touch, and Amanda felt a pang of longing for the home she had lost. She washed her face and hands in the basin, then sat on the bed, suddenly exhausted. The events of the day crashed over her, and she allowed herself a few silent tears before composing herself. She would not let Jack Anderson see her cry. She would prove she was strong enough for this journey, no matter what it took. The smell of cooking food drew her back to the main room. Jack had prepared a simple meal of beans, salt pork, and cornbread. They ate in companionable silence, and Amanda was surprised by how hungry she was. "Tell me about the canyon," she said as they finished eating. Jack leaned back in his chair, a cup of coffee in his hands. "Copper Canyon is about 40 miles of the most unforgiving terrain you will ever see. Narrow passes, sheer drops, rock slides, limited water sources, and plenty of places for bandits or hostile Indians to ambush travelers. It got its name from the copper deposits in the rock walls, which shine in the sunlight like fire. Beautiful and deadly like most things out here. How long will it take us to cross? If everything goes well, 4 days. If we run into trouble, could be longer. Could be never. You are trying to scare me. I am trying to prepare you. This is not a pleasure ride, Amanda. People have died in that canyon. Strong men, experienced scouts. If you are not absolutely certain about this, tell me now." Amanda set down her cup and looked him in the eye. "I am certain. I have nothing left to stay for and everything to leave behind. Whatever the canyon holds, I will face it." Jack nodded slowly. "Then we will leave at first light in 3 days. Get some rest. Tomorrow I will start teaching you what you need to know to survive the journey." The next 3 days passed in a blur of activity. Jack proved to be a demanding teacher, showing Amanda how to properly pack supplies, how to read the sky for weather changes, how to conserve water, and how to handle a rifle. She had never fired a gun before, and the kick of the weapon nearly knocked her over the first time she tried. "Again," Jack said patiently. "Brace yourself better. The rifle is useless if you cannot control it." They practiced for hours until her good shoulder ached almost as much as her wounded one. But by the end of the second day, she could hit a target with reasonable accuracy, and Jack grudgingly admitted she was learning. In the evenings, they talked. Amanda learned that Jack had lost his entire family to cholera while he was away scouting for the army. He had returned home to find his parents and younger brother all dead and buried. Only his sister had survived, and she had left for Texas soon after, unable to bear the memories. Jack had kept the ranch going, building it into something successful, but Amanda could hear the loneliness in his voice when he spoke of it. "Do you ever think about leaving?" she asked one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and reds. "Every day," he admitted, "but this land is all I have left of them. Selling it would feel like losing them all over again. Staying cannot be easy either. No, but running from pain does not make it disappear. It just changes the scenery." Amanda considered his words. "Maybe sometimes changing the scenery is what we need to heal." Jack looked at her, really looked at her, and something passed between them, an understanding perhaps or recognition of kindred spirits shaped by loss. "Maybe," he said softly. On the third night, Jack went over their route one final time. He had detailed maps spread across the table, showing every turn and landmark they would encounter. "We enter here," he pointed to the eastern mouth of the canyon. "The first day is relatively easy, just narrow. We will make camp at Echo Point, where there is a reliable water source. Day 2 gets harder. We climb through Devil's Staircase, a series of switchbacks that will test the horses. We camp at Copper Ridge. Day 3 is the most dangerous. We traverse the Knife's Edge, a path barely wide enough for a horse with a 1,000-foot drop on one side. If the weather turns bad, we wait it out. No exceptions. We camp at Sunset Springs. Day 4, we descend through the western passes and emerge onto the California Trail. What about bandits or Indians? We avoid them if possible, fight only if necessary. I know some of the Apache leaders in these parts. If we encounter them, let me do the talking." Amanda nodded, memorizing every detail. Sleep eluded her that night as she lay in bed, listening to the sounds of the ranch. Coyotes called in the distance, and the wind rattled the shutters. She thought about her parents, her aunt, everyone she had lost. She thought about the unknown future waiting in California. And she thought about Jack Anderson, the quiet rancher who was risking his life to guide a stranger through hell itself. She must have finally dozed off because the next thing she knew, Jack was knocking on her door, calling her name. Dawn was just breaking, painting the sky in soft pinks and golds. "Time to go," he said through the door. Amanda dressed quickly in the practical traveling clothes Jack had given her, clothes that had belonged to his sister. They fit reasonably well, and she was grateful for the sturdy fabric and comfortable boots. She braided her long brown hair and covered it with a wide-brimmed hat. Jack had already loaded their supplies onto 2 pack horses and saddled their mounts. He checked her saddle straps twice, making sure everything was secure. "How is your shoulder?" he asked. "Better." "Still sore but healing well thanks to your care." He nodded, satisfied. "Remember everything I taught you. Stay alert, trust your horse, and trust me. Can you do that?" Amanda looked at this man who had shown her more kindness in 3 days than she had experienced in months. "Yes, I can do that." They mounted up as the sun crested the horizon, and Jack led them north toward the distant mountains. The morning was cool and pleasant, and Amanda felt a surge of hope. Maybe this journey would be her salvation. Maybe leaving everything behind was exactly what she needed. They rode in silence for the first few hours, following a trail that gradually became rougher and steeper. The landscape changed from grassland to rocky terrain dotted with juniper and pinon trees. Jack set a steady pace, not too fast but purposeful. He periodically checked behind them and scanned the surroundings with the practiced eye of someone accustomed to danger. Around midday, they stopped to rest the horses and eat a quick meal of jerky and hardtack. Amanda's legs already ached from the unfamiliar exercise, but she refused to complain. "You are doing well," Jack said, and she felt a flush of pride at his words. "We should reach the canyon entrance by late afternoon." As they continued riding, Amanda found herself watching Jack more than the scenery. He sat his horse with natural ease, moving with the animal rather than against it. His eyes constantly scanned their surroundings, missing nothing. She realized she felt safe with him, safer than she had felt in a long time. "Tell me about your sister," she said, breaking the silence. "What is she like?" Jack smiled slightly, the first real smile she had seen from him. "Sarah is strong-willed and stubborn. Sound like anyone you know." He glanced at Amanda with amusement. "She always wanted adventure, always pushed boundaries. When she met her husband at a dance in Santa Fe, I knew within minutes she would follow him anywhere. She writes me letters, tells me about Texas. She sounds happy. Do you miss her?" "Every day, but I am glad she found her happiness, even if it took her far away." They crested a ridge, and Amanda gasped. Before them, the earth simply opened up. Copper Canyon stretched ahead, massive walls of striated rock rising on either side of a narrow passage. The stone glowed in shades of red, orange, and yes, copper as the afternoon sun hit it. It was breathtakingly beautiful and utterly terrifying. "Welcome to Copper Canyon," Jack said. "Last chance to turn back." Amanda straightened in her saddle. "Forward is the only direction I am going." Jack nodded and urged his horse forward down the steep trail that led to the canyon entrance. Amanda followed, her heart pounding with equal parts fear and exhilaration. The walls rose higher as they descended, and soon they were surrounded by stone that seemed to block out half the sky. The temperature dropped immediately, and the sound of their horses' hooves echoed off the walls. Jack kept them moving at a careful pace, navigating around fallen rocks and through passages so narrow that Amanda's legs brushed the canyon walls on both sides. "Stay close," Jack called back. "Do not fall behind." The hours passed slowly as they moved deeper into the canyon. Amanda's initial awe gave way to nervous alertness as she realized how vulnerable they were. The walls provided countless hiding places, and every shadow could conceal danger. But Jack seemed completely at ease, pointing out landmarks and explaining the geology as they traveled. As the sun began to set, painting the canyon walls in brilliant fire, Jack led them to a small cleared area where a spring bubbled from the rock face. Echo Point, just as he had described. "We camp here tonight," he said, dismounting. "There is good water, and the walls provide shelter from the wind. Plus, I can hear anyone approaching from miles away. The echoes give us warning." They worked together to set up camp, falling into an easy rhythm. Jack tended the horses while Amanda gathered kindling for a fire. They ate a simple supper of beans and coffee, and Amanda marveled at how right this felt, how natural it seemed to be here with this man she barely knew. "Tell me about California," Jack said as they sat by the fire. "What are you hoping to find there?" Amanda stared into the flames. "Peace, I suppose. A chance to build something new." My cousin Emma runs a boarding house in a small town near Sacramento. She has offered me a partnership if I can help her expand. She writes about trees that touch the sky and weather that is always mild. It sounds like a different world. It is. I traveled through California during my Army days. Beautiful country, green in ways this territory will never be. Will you ever leave here, see other places? Jack was quiet for a long moment. Maybe, part of me wants to, but this ranch, it is my anchor. Without it, I think I would just drift. Maybe drifting would not be so bad. Maybe you would drift somewhere better. He looked at her across the fire, and something in his expression made her heart skip. Maybe I would. They talked late into the night, sharing stories about their lives, their losses, their hopes. Amanda found herself opening up in ways she had not with anyone since her parents died. Jack listened without judgment, offering quiet understanding rather than empty platitudes. When they finally retired to their bedrolls on opposite sides of the fire, Amanda lay awake looking at the stars visible in the narrow strip of sky above them. She could hear Jack's steady breathing and felt comforted by his presence. For the first time in months, she felt something other than grief. She felt alive. The second day dawned bright and clear. Jack woke her before sunrise, and they ate a quick breakfast before packing up camp. The canyon grew narrower as they progressed, and soon they reached Devil's Staircase, the series of steep switchbacks Jack had warned her about. "Watch your horse carefully," he instructed. "Let them pick their footing. They are smarter than us about this terrain." The climb was grueling. The path zigzagged up the canyon wall in tight turns that left Amanda's stomach churning. One misstep would send horse and rider tumbling hundreds of feet to the rocks below. She kept her eyes forward, trusting her mount as Jack had taught her. Halfway up, a rock gave way under her horse's hoof. The animal stumbled, and Amanda felt herself sliding sideways in the saddle. Her wounded shoulder screamed as she grabbed the saddle horn, fighting to regain her balance. The horse scrambled for purchase, hooves scraping against stone. "Easy," Jack's voice came from above her, calm and steady. "Just hold on. Let your horse find their feet." The animal recovered, planting all four hooves firmly on the path. Amanda's heart hammered in her chest, but she kept moving forward. They could not stop here. There was nowhere to stop. It took 3 hours to climb the staircase, and by the time they reached the top, both Amanda and the horses were exhausted. But Jack only allowed them a brief rest before pushing onward. "We need to reach Copper Ridge before dark," he explained. "That is the only safe camping spot between here and the knife's edge." The trail along the ridge was somewhat easier, though the exposure was terrifying. On their left rose the canyon wall, on their right dropped away into nothingness. Amanda focused on the back of Jack's horse and tried not to think about the fall that waited if she made a mistake. Late afternoon brought a change in the weather. Dark clouds gathered on the horizon, and the wind picked up, whipping Amanda's clothes and making the horses nervous. "Storm coming," Jack announced, his voice tight with concern. "We need to move faster." They urged the horses into a trot, racing against the weather. Thunder rumbled in the distance, growing closer with each passing minute. The first drops of rain hit just as Copper Ridge came into view, a small plateau carved into the canyon wall with an overhang that provided shelter. They made it under the overhang as the sky opened up. Rain fell in sheets, turning the trail they had just traveled into a river of mud. Lightning split the sky and thunder crashed so loud it hurt Amanda's ears. "That was close," Jack said, checking their supplies to make sure everything was secure. "If we had been caught on the staircase in this, we would be dead." Amanda watched the storm with wide eyes. Water poured off the overhang like a waterfall, and she could barely see 10 feet beyond their shelter. "How long will this last?" Could be an hour, could be all night. We waited out. They set up camp in the protected space, building a small fire near the back wall where the smoke could escape without blowing back on them. The horses were secured and fed, and Jack checked Amanda's shoulder wound to make sure it had not reopened during the stressful climb. "You did well today," he said as he rewrapped the bandage. "Not many people could handle the staircase, especially after taking a bullet a few days ago. I had a good teacher." His hands lingered a moment longer than necessary on her shoulder, and Amanda felt a warmth spread through her that had nothing to do with the fire. When she looked up, she found Jack watching her with an intensity that took her breath away. "Amanda," he said softly, then stopped, seeming to struggle with words. "Yes," he pulled back, breaking the moment. "You should get some rest. Tomorrow is the hardest day." Amanda wanted to push, wanted to ask what he had been about to say, but she recognized the walls going back up in his expression. Instead, she nodded and moved to her bedroll, though sleep was the last thing on her mind. The storm raged for hours. They sat by the fire, talking intermittently but mostly just existing together in comfortable silence. Amanda found herself studying Jack's profile in the firelight, the strong line of his jaw, the way his eyes reflected the flames. He was handsome in a rugged, weathered way, but it was more than that. There was something about him that called to her, a kindness beneath the tough exterior, a loneliness that matched her own. "Why did you really agree to guide me?" she asked suddenly. Jack looked at her, surprised by the question. "Because you reminded me of Sarah, that same stubborn determination. I knew if I did not help you, you would try alone and die in the attempt." "Is that the only reason?" He was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. "No. You reminded me what it feels like to want something so badly you are willing to risk everything for it. I had forgotten that feeling. Being around you, even for just those few days at the ranch, made me remember there is a world beyond my fences." "What do you want, Jack?" I thought I knew. "I thought I wanted to keep my head down, work the ranch, live a quiet life. But watching you prepare to fight for your future, I realized I have been existing, not living. You made me want more." Amanda's heart raced. "What do you want?" she repeated softly. Jack met her eyes across the fire. "I am starting to think I want whatever comes after we cross this canyon. I want to see where this path leads." "This path," he gestured between them. "This. Whatever this is that has been building between us. Do not tell me you have not felt it." Amanda could not deny it. From the moment she had met him, something had pulled her toward Jack Anderson. She had told herself it was gratitude, admiration for his skills and kindness. But it was more than that, and she had known it even as she tried to ignore it. "I have felt it," she admitted. "But Jack, I am headed to California. You have your ranch. We are from different worlds wanting different things." "Are we, though? You want a fresh start. Maybe I do too. Maybe that ranch is not the anchor I need. Maybe it is the weight holding me down." "You would give up everything you have built for the right reason." "Yes. Amanda, I know we barely know each other. I know this is crazy, but I have not felt this alive in years. When I am with you, the world has color again. I cannot let you walk out of my life without at least exploring what this could be." Amanda felt tears sting her eyes. "What are you saying?" Jack moved around the fire to sit beside her. He took her hand gently in his calloused fingers warm against her skin. "I am saying that maybe we both find what we are looking for on the other side of this canyon. Maybe California has room for a rancher looking to start over. Maybe your fresh start includes someone who understands your past. Or maybe I am a fool who is reading everything wrong." "You are not reading it wrong," Amanda whispered. She reached up with her free hand and touched his face, feeling the stubble on his jaw. "I am terrified to hope for this. Everything I have ever loved has been taken from me. I know that fear, but is fear a good enough reason to not try? Amanda looked into his eyes and saw her own longing reflected back. She leaned forward slowly, giving him time to pull away. Instead, Jack met her halfway and their lips touched in a kiss that felt like coming home. It was gentle at first, tentative, but quickly deepened as weeks of loneliness and loss transformed into connection and hope. When they finally pulled apart, Amanda was breathless. Jack rested his forehead against hers and she could feel him trembling slightly. "I did not expect this," he said. "When you showed up at my ranch with that stubborn determination and bullet wound, I never imagined you would turn my entire world upside down. I did not expect it either, but I am glad I found you." They held each other as the storm continued outside, wrapped in the warmth of the fire and the new understanding between them. Amanda felt the tight grip of grief that had held her heart loosen slightly. Maybe there was room for joy again. Maybe this man, this unexpected guide through more than just a canyon, could help her find her way not just to California, but to a future worth living. They talked through the night, sharing dreams and fears with the honesty that comes from knowing your life depends on the person beside you. Jack told her about his hopes for the ranch, the improvements he had always wanted to make but never had the heart to pursue alone. Amanda spoke of her plans for the boarding house, her ideas for making it a true home for travelers and families. "We could do both," Jack said thoughtfully. "California has plenty of land for ranching. Near Sacramento, you said. There are valleys there that would be perfect for cattle and horses, and a ranch always needs buildings for hands travelers. It could work." "You are serious about this," Amanda said, half statement, half question. "I am serious about you. The rest we can figure out together." As dawn broke, the storm finally passed, leaving the air clean and cool. They emerged from their shelter to find the canyon washed and glistening, every surface sparkling with water droplets that caught the early light. "Knife's Edge today," Jack said, all business again as he checked the horses and supplies. "This will be the most dangerous part of the journey. The rain will have made everything slick. We move carefully, take our time. I need you to be completely focused." Amanda nodded, her resolve strengthened by the night's revelations. She had even more reason now to make it through safely. She had found something worth surviving for. The trail to Knife's Edge was treacherous after the rain. Mud sucked at the horses' hooves, and small streams ran across the path where before there had been only dry stone. Jack led them slowly, checking every step before proceeding. When they reached the Knife's Edge itself, Amanda understood immediately why it had earned its name. The path narrowed to barely 3 feet wide, with the canyon wall on the left and a sheer drop on the right. Worse, the entire trail was carved into a curve, so they could not see what lay ahead. "Single file," Jack instructed. "Eyes forward, not down. Trust your horse. I will go first to test the path. Wait until I signal before you follow with the first pack horse, then the second. No rush. We have all day if we need it." Amanda watched as Jack and his horse moved onto the narrow path. Every muscle in her body tensed as she watched them navigate the treacherous trail. His horse's hooves slipped occasionally on the wet stone, but Jack kept the animal steady with gentle commands and firm guidance. It felt like an eternity before he reached a wider section about 50 yards ahead and signaled her to follow. Amanda took a deep breath, whispered a prayer, and urged her horse forward. The world narrowed to just the path ahead, and the reassuring presence of the canyon wall to her left. She could feel the emptiness to her right, could hear the wind whistling up from the depths below. Her wounded shoulder throbbed from gripping the reins too tightly, but she could not make herself relax. One step at a time, her horse carried her forward. Halfway across, a gust of wind hit them, strong enough to make the horse shy slightly toward the edge. Amanda's heart stopped, but she remembered Jack's training and kept her seat, talking softly to calm the animal until it regained its composure. Finally, after what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, she reached Jack's position. He helped steady her horse and gave her a look of pure relief and pride. "Well done. Now we do it again for the pack horses." They repeated the process twice more, leading each pack horse across individually. By the time all 4 horses were safely across the first section, Amanda was exhausted from the sustained terror. But there were 3 more sections to cross before they were clear of the knife's edge. The day wore on in tense increments of progress. Each section seemed harder than the last, testing their nerves and skills to the limit. On the 3rd section, one of the pack horses stepped on a loose rock that rolled away beneath its hoof. The animal stumbled dangerously close to the edge, and only Jack's quick action in grabbing its bridle kept it from going over. "Easy, easy," he murmured, pulling the terrified horse back to solid footing. His face was pale when he looked at Amanda, and she knew they had been seconds from disaster. The sun was setting as they finally cleared the last section of the knife's edge and reached Sunset Springs, so named for the way the water reflected the evening light. The spring was set in a small box canyon off the main trail, protected on 3 sides by towering rock walls. They made camp in silence, both too drained to speak much. But after they had eaten and were sitting by the fire, Amanda moved to sit beside Jack and took his hand. "Thank you for getting us through that," she said. "I have never been so frightened in my life. That makes 2 of us. When that horse almost went over, all I could think about was losing you." He turned to face her fully. "Amanda, I need you to know something. Whatever happens after we get out of this canyon, whether we build a life together, or you decide you want nothing to do with a broken-down rancher, these days with you have meant everything to me. You have given me hope again." Amanda felt tears slip down her cheeks. "You are not broken down. You are the strongest, most capable man I have ever met. And yes, I am terrified of hoping for too much, but I cannot help it. I want that future with you, Jack. I want to build something together." He kissed her then, deeply and thoroughly, and Amanda felt the last of her walls crumble. She had been so determined to never open her heart again, to never risk the pain of loss. But Jack had shown her that closing yourself off from pain also meant closing yourself off from joy, from love, from life itself. They held each other as night fell, and Amanda marveled at how much her world had changed in just a few days. She had entered the canyon looking for a passage through, nothing more. Instead, she had found a guide who had led her not just through dangerous terrain, but through the wilderness of her own grief and into the possibility of happiness. The final day of the journey dawned bright and beautiful. The trail descended gradually through a series of winding passages that opened wider with each mile. The rock walls grew lower, and vegetation began to appear in the form of hardy bushes and twisted trees. "We are almost through," Jack announced around mid-morning. "By afternoon, we will be out of the canyon and on the California Trail." Amanda felt a mix of relief and strange melancholy. The canyon had been terrifying, but it had also been transformative. She was not the same woman who had entered it 4 days ago. That woman had been running from pain. The woman riding out would be walking towards something, towards someone, with purpose and hope. As the canyon walls finally parted to reveal open sky and rolling hills beyond, Amanda and Jack stopped their horses and looked back at the imposing passage they had conquered together. "I will never forget this," Amanda said softly. "Neither will I." Jack reached over and took her hand. "Ready for whatever comes next, with you?" "Yes." They rode out of Copper Canyon and onto the California Trail, leaving behind the narrow confines of stone for the wide, open possibilities of their future. The journey to Sacramento took another 2 weeks, but it felt like no time at all. Jack and Amanda traveled together, falling into an easy partnership that felt as natural as breathing. They talked constantly, planning and dreaming, learning each other's quirks and habits. Jack taught her more about reading the land, tracking weather, and surviving in the wilderness. Amanda shared her knowledge of managing households and finances, skills she had learned helping her aunt run a boarding house years before. They reached Sacramento on a warm afternoon in late August, and Emma Thornton met them with tears and exclamations of joy. She was a plump, cheerful woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. "Amanda, thank God you made it safely. And who is this?" She looked at Jack with open curiosity. "This is Jack Anderson. He guided me through Copper Canyon. Jack, this is my cousin Emma." Emma's sharp eyes moved between them, taking in their clasped hands and the way they stood close together. A smile spread across her face. "Well then, Mr. Anderson, I hope you will be staying for supper at least. I want to hear all about this journey." Over a hearty meal at Emma's boarding house, they told her everything, from Amanda's desperate search for a guide to their harrowing crossing of the canyon. Emma listened with rapt attention, gasping at the dangerous parts and smiling during the more tender moments. "So what are your plans now?" she finally asked, looking directly at Jack. Jack glanced at Amanda before answering. "I hope to sell my ranch in New Mexico and relocate here to California. I am a cattleman by trade, but I can turn my hand to most things. I thought to look for land suitable for ranching near enough to Sacramento that Amanda and I could build a life together." Emma clapped her hands together. "Well, this is wonderful news. Amanda, I could not be happier for you. And Mr. Anderson, I think you will find California very welcoming to new enterprises. There is a valley about 20 miles north of here that has several properties for sale. Good grazing land, reliable water, and close enough to town for regular visits." Jack nodded thoughtfully. "I will ride out tomorrow to look at it." "We will ride out tomorrow," Amanda corrected with a smile. "We are in this together, remember?" Emma watched them with approval. "You two are good for each other. I can see it plain as day." That night, Amanda stood on the porch of the boarding house looking at the California sky. She heard footsteps behind her and turned to find Jack approaching. "You should be resting," he said, slipping an arm around her waist. "I am too happy to rest, too grateful. A month ago I thought my life was over. Now I have more to look forward to than I ever imagined." "I know what you mean. I was just existing before you came along. Now I am living again." They stood together in comfortable silence until Amanda asked the question that had been on her mind. "Jack, are you sure about selling the ranch? It is your family's legacy." He considered for a moment before answering. "My family is not in the land or the buildings. My family is in my heart, in my memories. They would want me to be happy, to live fully. And I cannot do that clinging to a place that only reminds me of loss. Sarah understood that when she left for Texas. Now I understand it too." He turned her to face him. "Besides, I am ready to build a new legacy, with you if you will have me. Of course I will have you." "I love you, Jack Anderson." It was the first time she had said the words aloud, and they felt right, felt true. Jack's face broke into a smile that transformed his usually serious expression. "I love you too, Amanda Thornton. I think I started falling for you the moment you stood on my porch with that bullet wound, refusing to take no for an answer." He kissed her under the California stars, and Amanda knew without doubt that she was exactly where she was meant to be. The next few months passed in a flurry of activity. Jack returned to New Mexico to sell his ranch and bring back his best horses and equipment. The sale went smoothly, and several neighboring ranchers bid against each other for the property, driving up the price beyond what Jack had expected. He kept only his sister's belongings and a few personal items, sending most of the furniture and household goods with the ranch. While he was gone, Amanda worked with Emma to expand the boarding house. They added a new wing with 4 additional rooms and modernized the kitchen. Amanda proved to have a talent for management, and soon the boarding house was running more smoothly and profitably than ever. Jack returned in October with a wagon full of supplies, his best breeding stock, and enough money from the ranch sale to purchase a substantial property in the valley Emma had mentioned. The land was beautiful, with rolling hills, a creek that ran year-round, and enough grass to support a large herd. There was even an old cabin that just needed repairs to make it livable. They married in November in a simple ceremony at the local church with Emma and a few of Amanda's new friends in attendance. Jack had written to Sarah in Texas, and she sent a long letter of congratulations and approval, promising to visit as soon as she could manage the journey. Amanda wore a simple dress of ivory silk that Emma had helped her sew, and Jack wore his best suit, looking handsome and nervous as he waited at the altar. When Amanda walked down the aisle, his face lit up with such joy that several women in attendance wiped away tears. "I, Jack Anderson, take you, Amanda Thornton, to be my wife," he said when the time came for vows. "I promise to love you, protect you, and walk beside you through whatever valleys or canyons life brings us. You have shown me that even after great loss, there can be joy. You are my guide to happiness, and I will spend every day trying to be worthy of you." Amanda's voice trembled as she replied, "I, Amanda Anderson, take you, Jack, to be my husband. You have given me more than passage through a canyon. You have given me hope, purpose, and a future I thought I had lost forever. I promise to build a life with you, to face whatever comes together, and to love you more with each passing day." When they kissed as husband and wife, Amanda felt a profound sense of rightness. This was not the life she had planned, but it was so much better than anything she could have imagined. They moved into the cabin on their new ranch while building a larger house on a hill overlooking the property. Jack threw himself into ranching with renewed energy, and Amanda helped while also maintaining her partnership with Emma at the boarding house. It was exhausting work, but they thrived on it. Their first spring in California brought mild weather and an explosion of wildflowers across their land. Amanda discovered she was pregnant in April, and Jack was so overjoyed he rode to town to buy her flowers and a rocking chair he had seen her admiring months before. "A rocking chair," she laughed when he arrived home with it tied to his horse. "Jack, I am barely 3 months along. I want everything to be ready. I want this baby to have everything we can give them." Amanda kissed him tenderly. "This baby already has the most important thing: 2 parents who love each other and will do anything to make a good life for their family." Their son was born in December, a healthy boy with Jack's dark hair and Amanda's blue eyes. They named him Thomas, after Jack's father, and he immediately became the center of their world. Jack proved to be a devoted father, walking the floor with Thomas when he cried at night and speaking to him constantly, even though the baby could not possibly understand. Sarah finally visited from Texas when Thomas was 6 months old, and she and Amanda became fast friends. She approved wholeheartedly of the match and told Amanda privately that she had never seen her brother so happy. "You saved him," Sarah said as they watched Jack play with Thomas in the yard. "He was drowning in grief and loneliness, but you pulled him back to life." "He saved me too," Amanda replied. "We saved each other." The ranch prospered over the next few years. Jack's skills and Amanda's business sense proved to be a powerful combination. They expanded their herd, built partnerships with other ranchers, and became respected members of their community. Amanda maintained her involvement with Emma's boarding house, which had become the finest in Sacramento. Their daughter arrived when Thomas was 3, a tiny girl they named Elizabeth after Amanda's mother. She had her father's stubborn determination from the start, refusing to sleep unless someone was holding her and demanding attention with a will of iron. "She reminds me of you," Jack said one night as he rocked Elizabeth while Amanda put Thomas to bed. "Showing up in this world ready to fight for what she wants." "God help us then," Amanda laughed. "One of me is probably enough." But Elizabeth softened as she grew, becoming a sweet-natured child who loved animals and spent hours following her father around the ranch, asking endless questions about everything she saw. On their 5th anniversary, Jack took Amanda on a picnic to the spot where they would build their house, which was now completed and sprawling, with large windows that let in the California sunshine and rooms filled with the noise and joy of their growing family. "You ever regret it?" he asked as they lay on a blanket looking up at the clouds. "Giving up your plans to work at Emma's boarding house full-time, ending up on a ranch instead?" Amanda propped herself up on her elbow to look at him. "Not for a single second." "Jack, I came west looking for a fresh start, for a way to escape pain. Instead, I found you. I found love. I found a partner who makes every day an adventure. This life, with you and our children, is better than anything I could have planned. I still cannot believe sometimes that you walked into my life, that desperate woman with a bullet wound and more courage than sense. I had plenty of sense. I sensed you were exactly what I needed." Jack pulled her close and kissed her. "What did I do to deserve you? You took a chance. You agreed to guide a stranger through the most dangerous passage in the territory. You opened your heart when it would have been easier to stay closed off. That is what you did." They watched their children play in the yard below, Thomas chasing Elizabeth while she shrieked with laughter. The ranch stretched around them, prosperous and peaceful, a testament to what two people could build together when they found each other at exactly the right moment. Life was not always easy. They faced droughts and harsh winters, difficult calvings, and the normal struggles of running a ranch and raising children. But they faced everything together, and that made all the difference. When times were hard, they remembered the canyon, the narrow passes they had navigated together, and knew they could overcome anything. Emma remained a constant presence in their lives, often visiting the ranch and spoiling her young cousins. She never married, but declared herself perfectly happy running her boarding house and being the favorite aunt. She and Amanda maintained their partnership, though Amanda's role became more of a silent investor as the ranch demanded more of her time. Sarah and her family visited every few years, and the cousins grew up knowing each other through letters and summer visits. Sarah's husband and Jack became friends, bonding over their shared love of horses and their wives' tendency to involve them in ambitious projects. As the children grew older, Jack began teaching Thomas the ranch business, while Amanda ensured both children received good educations. Elizabeth surprised everyone by showing a talent for numbers and began helping her mother with the ranch accounts at age 12. Thomas inherited his father's love of the land and his mother's stubborn determination, making him a formidable young rancher in training. On Thomas's 18th birthday, Jack took his son on a long ride across their property, showing him every fence line and water source, explaining the history of each section and the plans for future expansion. "This will all be yours someday," Jack said as they stood on the highest hill overlooking the ranch. "Yours and Elizabeth's. Your mother and I built this from nothing, but we built it for you, for your children, for the generations to come. I will take care of it, Thomas promised. And I will make you proud. You already make me proud, every single day. That evening, the family gathered for a celebration. Emma arrived from Sacramento with an elaborate cake, and neighbors from surrounding ranches joined them for dancing and music. Amanda stood on the porch of the house she and Jack had built, watching their son dance with a young woman from a neighboring ranch, and felt profound contentment. Jack came to stand beside her, his arm slipping around her waist in the familiar gesture that still made her heart skip after all these years. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "How grateful I am. For you, for our life, for everything. I was so lost when I found you, Jack. I thought I was just looking for passage through a canyon, a way to get from one place to another, but you gave me so much more than that. We gave each other more. You know, I think about that day you showed up at my ranch sometimes. What if I had not listened to you? What if I had sent you away? I would have kept arguing until you gave in. I was very determined." Jack laughed. "True, you never did take no for an answer. I knew what I wanted even if I did not realize it at the time. I wanted you, I wanted this life. My heart recognized home before my head caught up." They watched the party in comfortable silence until Elizabeth appeared, pulling her mother onto the dance floor. Jack followed, and soon the family was dancing together, laughing and celebrating under the stars. More years passed in a blur of happiness and hard work. Amanda and Jack grew older together, their love deepening with each shared sunrise and sunset. They added a third child to their family, another son they named Samuel, who arrived as a surprise when Elizabeth was 12. Sam was born with a gentle spirit and a love of learning that eventually led him to become a teacher, much to his parents' delight. Thomas married the young woman from the neighboring ranch, a smart, capable girl named Catherine who fit into the family perfectly. They built a house on the far end of the property and began raising their own children, continuing the legacy Jack and Amanda had started. Elizabeth shocked everyone by announcing at 20 that she wanted to start her own business in Sacramento. With her parents' support and Emma's guidance, she opened a mercantile that quickly became successful. She eventually married a banker who respected her independence and business acumen, and they divided their time between Sacramento and the ranch. Samuel pursued education, becoming a teacher in a small school near the ranch. He married a widow with 2 children of her own, and their blended family brought new joy and chaos to family gatherings. On their 25th wedding anniversary, Jack surprised Amanda with a trip back to New Mexico territory. They traveled to Copper Canyon, seeing it again with older eyes and fuller hearts. "I wanted to come back here," Jack explained as they stood at the eastern entrance where they had begun their journey so many years before. "I wanted to remember where our story truly started, where we found each other." Amanda looked at the imposing walls and remembered the fear, the danger, the way Jack had guided her safely through. "We have come a long way from here, in miles and in life. But Amanda, I want you to know that I would do it all again. Every dangerous step, every terrifying moment. Because it led me to you." They walked part of the trail together, not attempting the full crossing but retracing enough steps to remember. At Echo Point, where they had sheltered from the storm, Jack pulled Amanda close. "This is where I first told you how I felt. Where I admitted I was falling in love with you. I remember. I was so scared to hope, but I could not help myself. You made me believe in happiness again. You did the same for me. We healed each other." They returned to California with renewed appreciation for the journey that had brought them together. The ranch continued to thrive under the combined efforts of the family. Thomas proved to be an excellent rancher, expanding their operations while maintaining the quality that had made the Anderson name respected throughout the state. Elizabeth's mercantile grew into a chain of stores, and she became one of Sacramento's most successful businesswomen. Samuel's school gained a reputation for excellence, drawing students from all over the county. Jack and Amanda gradually stepped back from the daily operations of the ranch, though they remained active and involved. They spent their days working in the garden Amanda had cultivated over the years, taking long rides across their land, and spoiling their growing brood of grandchildren. Emma passed away peacefully in her sleep at 72, leaving the boarding house to Amanda and Elizabeth jointly. They transformed it into a hotel that honored Emma's memory while modernizing for the new century that was rapidly approaching. Sarah died a few years later in Texas, and Jack traveled alone to attend her funeral. He returned quiet and reflective, spending days sorting through the letters and mementos he had kept over the years. "I miss her," he told Amanda as they sat on their porch watching the sunset. "She was the last connection to my old life, before everything changed. She was proud of you, of the life you built. She told me once that moving to California was the best thing you ever did. It was, because it brought me here to you, to this family. I have no regrets, Amanda, not a single one." They sat in comfortable silence as the sky turned brilliant shades of orange and pink. After nearly 30 years of marriage, they had learned the value of silence, of simply being together without the need for constant words. As they aged into their 60s, Jack's movements grew slower, and Amanda's hair turned completely white, but their love remained as strong as ever. They walked the property together every morning, hand in hand, checking on grandchildren and great-grandchildren who now filled the ranch with noise and laughter. On a crisp autumn morning when the leaves were turning gold and the air smelled of approaching winter, Jack woke to find Amanda already up, standing at the bedroom window looking out at the ranch. "Come back to bed," he said. "It is too early to be up." She turned with a smile. "I was just thinking about how much I love this view, how much I love this life we have built." Jack got up and wrapped his arms around her from behind. "Me too. Every single day I wake up grateful that you walked into my life, that stubborn, determined woman who refused to take no for an answer. That rancher who pretended to be tough, but had the kindest heart I ever knew." They stood together watching the sunrise paint the sky in brilliant colors, much like the canyon walls had been painted that first day they entered together. The ranch spread below them, prosperous and peaceful, filled with family and purpose. "You remember what you said to me in the canyon?" Amanda asked. "At Echo Point during the storm, I said a lot of things that night. You said that maybe we would both find what we were looking for on the other side. You were right. I found everything I was looking for and so much more." Jack kissed the top of her head. "I found my way to happiness because of you. The canyon was just the path. You were the destination." They spent the day surrounded by family. Thomas and Catherine brought their children for Sunday dinner, a tradition that had continued for decades. Elizabeth arrived from Sacramento with her family, and Samuel walked over from the school with his wife and stepchildren. The house filled with noise and laughter, with children running through the rooms and adults catching up on the week's events. As Amanda watched her family, she thought about the journey that had brought her here. The pain and loss that had driven her west, the desperate search for passage through an impossible canyon, the rancher who had agreed to guide her. Every step had been necessary, every hardship had shaped her into the woman she became. Jack caught her eye across the crowded room and smiled, that same smile that had first made her heart skip. After all these years, he could still make her feel like a young woman falling in love for the first time. That night, After everyone had gone home and the house was quiet again, they sat on the porch wrapped in blankets against the cool evening air. "Tell me about your favorite memory," Amanda said suddenly. Jack thought for a moment. "There are so many." "Thomas's birth. Seeing you walk down the aisle at our wedding, watching you hold each of our children for the first time. But I think my favorite might be that first morning in the canyon, when we woke up at Echo Point, and you looked at me like you were really seeing me for the first time. That is when I knew this journey would change everything." "Mine is simpler," Amanda said. "My favorite memory is every morning I wake up and see you beside me. Every single day for 30 years, that moment of realizing I get another day with you, that never gets old." Jack pulled her closer. "Here is to many more mornings together." "Many more," Amanda agreed, resting her head on his shoulder. They sat together as the stars came out, those same stars that had witnessed their journey through the canyon, their wedding, the birth of their children, and every important moment of their life together. The ranch was quiet except for the distant sound of cattle and the whisper of wind through the trees. As they finally headed inside for the night, Jack stopped and turned to look back at the land one more time. "We did good, did we not?" "We did amazing," Amanda corrected. "We built something beautiful and lasting. We created a legacy of love and hard work. And it all started because I needed passage through a canyon and you agreed to guide me. Best decision I ever made." "Second best," Amanda said with a smile. "The best was asking me to marry you." Jack laughed and took her hand. "You are right. That was definitely the best." They walked into the house together, closing the door on another perfect day. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and joys, but they would face them together as they always had. Two souls who had found each other when they both needed it most and built a life beyond anything either had imagined possible. The years continued to unfold gently for Jack and Amanda. They celebrated their 40th anniversary, surrounded by 3 generations of family, a testament to the love that had started in a dangerous canyon and grown into something remarkable. Jack turned 73 that year, and while he remained active, he finally agreed to let Thomas handle all the ranching decisions. He spent his days mostly in the garden with Amanda, maintaining the beautiful space they had created together over 4 decades. Amanda, at 71, remained sharp and engaged, still consulting on Elizabeth's business ventures and teaching her granddaughters the skills of household management and finance that had served her so well. But her favorite times were the quiet evenings with Jack, sitting on their porch watching the sunset, hands entwined, comfortable in the silence that came from a lifetime of companionship. They celebrated their 50th anniversary with a massive party that brought together family and friends from across California and beyond. The ranch had never seen such a gathering, with 3 generations of Andersons filling every building and corner of the property. During the celebration, Thomas stood to make a toast. 50 years ago, my mother needed passage through a canyon, and my father guided her to safety. But what he really did was guide her to happiness, and she guided him right back. They built this ranch, this family, this legacy of love and hard work. Everything we have, everything we are, started with their courage and their commitment to each other. To Jack and Amanda Anderson, the crowd erupted in cheers, and Amanda felt tears slip down her wrinkled cheeks. Jack squeezed her hand, his own eyes suspiciously bright. "We did all right," he whispered to her. "We did better than all right. We did magnificently." That night, after all the guests had left and the house was finally quiet, they lay in bed together as they had for 50 years. "Amanda," Jack said softly, "I need you to know something. If I had my life to live over, I would not change a single thing. Every moment has been a gift, even the hard times, especially the hard times. They made us stronger. They taught us to appreciate the good. And we always faced them together. Amanda rolled over to look at him, seeing not the elderly man with white hair and age-spotted hands, but the rancher who had agreed to guide a desperate woman through impossible terrain. The man who had saved her life and then made that life worth living. I love you, Jack Anderson. I have loved you for 50 years, and I will love you for whatever time we have left. And I love you, Amanda Anderson. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. They fell asleep in each other's arms, just as they had thousands of nights before. Jack passed away peacefully 2 years later, in the spring when the wildflowers covered the hills in brilliant color. He had spent the morning working in the garden with Amanda, had eaten lunch with his usual appetite, and had settled down for an afternoon nap. When Amanda went to wake him for dinner, he was gone, a slight smile on his face as if he had been dreaming of something pleasant. The funeral was attended by hundreds, a testament to the life he had lived and the impact he had made. Amanda stood strong throughout, supported by her children and grandchildren, accepting condolences with grace while her heart broke into pieces. That night, alone in the house for the first time in 52 years, she stood at the window looking out at the ranch. So much had changed since that day she had ridden up to Jack's old ranch in New Mexico, desperate for a guide. He had given her everything, more than passage through a canyon, more than safety. He had given her a life filled with love, purpose, and joy. Amanda lived for 5 more years, remaining active and involved with her family until the end. She spent her days maintaining the garden she and Jack had built together, writing letters to her grandchildren, and telling stories about the early days to anyone who would listen. She particularly loved telling the story of the canyon crossing, of the desperate woman and the reluctant rancher who had found love in the most unlikely of places. The grandchildren never tired of hearing it, especially the dramatic parts about the storm at Copper Ridge and the terrifying crossing of Knife's Edge. Was Grandpa really as brave as you say? One of her great-grandsons asked once. Braver, Amanda assured him. Your grandfather was the bravest, kindest, most wonderful man I ever knew. And the smartest thing I ever did was convince him to take a chance on me. On a warm summer evening, when the sunset painted the sky in shades of copper and gold that reminded her of the canyon walls, Amanda sat in her favorite rocking chair on the porch. She was surrounded by family, with great-grandchildren playing in the yard and her children sitting nearby. As the sun dipped below the horizon, she felt a profound sense of peace. She had lived a full life, had loved deeply and been loved in return. She had built something lasting, something that would continue long after she was gone. That night, Amanda passed away in her sleep, peacefully and without pain. The family found her the next morning still in her rocking chair, wrapped in the quilt Jack had given her on their 10th anniversary, with a peaceful expression that suggested she had seen something beautiful in her final moments. They buried her next to Jack on the hill overlooking the ranch, under a large oak tree they had planted together 40 years before. The entire community attended, 3 generations of Andersons and countless others whose lives had been touched by the couple who had built so much from so little. Thomas stood at the grave and spoke the final words. Our parents taught us that love is the foundation of everything worth building. They showed us that 2 people who are committed to each other can overcome any obstacle, survive any hardship, and create something beautiful that lasts beyond their lifetimes. We are all here because they found each other when they both needed it most. Because my mother needed passage through a canyon, and my father guided her not just through dangerous terrain but straight to happiness. And in doing so, he found his own happiness. We will miss them, but we will continue their legacy. This ranch, this family, will stand as a testament to their love for generations to come. The Anderson Ranch continued to thrive, passed down through the generations just as Jack and Amanda had planned. The story of their meeting and courtship became family legend, told and retold until every Anderson child knew by heart the tale of the canyon crossing and the love that blossomed from it. The house on the hill remained the family home, carefully maintained and expanded as needed. The garden Amanda had loved continued to bloom each spring, tended by her descendants who found peace in its beauty, just as she had. And on the mantel in the main room sat a framed photograph taken on Jack and Amanda's 50th anniversary, showing them smiling at each other with the same love and devotion that had defined their entire marriage. In the photograph, you could see the ranch spreading behind them, prosperous and beautiful, a physical manifestation of what two people could build when they committed themselves to each other and to a shared dream. But more than the land or the buildings or the material success, what showed most clearly in that photograph was the deep, abiding love between two people who had found each other against all odds and created something extraordinary. Amanda had entered Copper Canyon looking for passage through to a new life. She had found that, and so much more. She had found Jack, and together they had built a legacy that would endure for generations. The ranch stood as proof that sometimes the most dangerous journeys lead to the most beautiful destinations, and that love, real and true and committed, could overcome anything. Years turned into decades, and the Anderson Ranch remained a fixture in the California landscape. The story of Jack and Amanda became part of local history, passed down not just within the family but throughout the community. School children learned about the rancher and the determined woman who had crossed the deadly canyon together and built one of the region's most successful ranches. The canyon itself remained as dangerous and beautiful as ever, still claiming lives of those foolish or desperate enough to attempt it. But to the Anderson family, it would always be sacred ground, the place where their legacy began, where two lonely souls had found each other and built something that would last forever. On the 100th anniversary of Jack and Amanda's wedding, the family held a massive celebration at the ranch. Anderson descendants came from all over the country, some who had never even visited California before, but who wanted to see the place where their family story began. They gathered under the oak tree where Jack and Amanda were buried, and the current patriarch, Thomas's grandson, read from a letter Amanda had written shortly before her death. "My dearest family," the letter began. "If you are reading this, then 100 years have passed since Jack and I stood before God and each other and promised forever. I hope the ranch still stands. I hope you are all happy and healthy and continuing the work we started. But most of all, I hope you understand what Jack and I learned in that canyon and in our life together. Love is the only thing that really matters. Not money or land or success, though those things have their place. But love, real and committed and true, that is what builds something lasting. I needed passage through a canyon and Jack guided me through. But more than that, he guided me to understand that even after great loss, there can be great joy. Even after terrible pain, there can be healing. We built this ranch with our hands, but we built our life with our hearts. Take care of each other. Love deeply. Face your challenges together. And remember that the greatest journeys often start with a single, terrifying step into the unknown. With all my love, Amanda Anderson." There was not a dry eye under that oak tree. The family stood together, united by the legacy of two people who had taken a chance on love when it would have been so much easier to remain closed off and alone. They had given their descendants not just land and wealth, but something far more valuable: the knowledge that love could conquer anything, that commitment and partnership could build something beautiful, and that the greatest happiness often came from the most unexpected places. As the sun set on that 100th anniversary, painting the sky in shades of copper and gold, the Anderson family gathered on the hill where the house still stood, where Jack and Amanda's garden still bloomed, where their love story had unfolded over 52 beautiful years. They raised a toast to the rancher and the determined woman, to the canyon that had brought them together, and to the love that had guided them both straight to happiness and created a legacy that would never end. The ranch continued, as Jack and Amanda had always known it would, tended by their descendants who understood that they were not just maintaining a property, but honoring a love story for the ages. And somewhere, in whatever comes after this life, Jack and Amanda smiled, knowing that what they had built together would last forever, a testament to the power of love, courage, and two souls finding each other exactly when they needed to most.